Thank you for joining Motor India's coverage here at 65th annual session.
Thank you.
And the theme, which is navigating global challenges, with the perennial question, how is ACMA enabling the members de-risk their supply chain constraints?
So, honestly, these are very, very challenging times for the industry. A couple of wars that are happening.
True.
Then we have challenges on the tariffs front from the USA. We have challenges in front of the magnets. So these are definitely challenging and interesting times. I would say interesting because we have a huge domestic market that continues to grow steadily, and I think the recent GST reform that happened, that is again going to fuel the domestic market. And if you look at the auto component industry, where the turnover is $80 billion, we supply $70 billion to the OEMs, which is the domestic market, and $10 billion is the aftermarket, which is again domestic. Okay. And then we have $20 billion, or say $23 billion worth of exports. And $22 billion imports. They get neutralized.
Okay.
So we are hugely dependent on the domestic market, and the domestic market continues to grow. So that's a great safety net. That's one. Secondly, we are deepening engagements with the emerging markets, the MENA region, the Middle East and North African region, the South African region, the West African region, the LATAM region. These are smaller markets, but the rate of growth is phenomenal. So that's another thing that we are focusing on. And ACMA is very aggressive in terms of doing international exhibitions and pushing members. And these markets are hugely aftermarket oriented. Okay? And we believe that by say 2030, the international aftermarket in these emerging areas could be as huge as $15 billion from current $10 billion. Okay, so there's a huge growth that's expected in these regions, so we're focusing there. And that apart, pretty much like the USA, Europe is a very significant market for us. It's almost equal in numbers. So we're also redoubling our efforts in the European market, though the results may not be forthcoming ASAP because Europe itself is under tremendous pressure. But what's happening is that the demand from the Europe is sort of gaining a lot of traction, especially from the European OEMs.
Understood.
So keeping our fingers crossed, and I guess, as I said, that there's a lot of fluidity in the system, and we have to sort of do a lot of business.
Understood. So, but thank you so much for that overview, because you made a valid point about domestic market being so big and catering to that. But given this scenario, then how are you? What is your strategy, or say top 2 priorities as a policy that you are recommending to the government, and what are the top 2 priorities that ACMA would want that, because of that the members are assured that there will be a lot of localization and at the global standard that can also cater to the domestic demands plus the international demands.
So, look, US was a very big market for us, and there's a huge exposure from an exports perspective to the US market. And what we have, and we suffer 2 kinds of tariff. Car parts, they attract 25% duty.
Okay.
That's because of the Section 232, and parts for commercial vehicles and for tractors and for off-road vehicles, they are at 50%. Now, these are humongous tax rates that are imposed in India, and what we are trying to do is work with the government. If the government could help enable capex subsidy, if the government can help enable OPEX subsidies, then we will be able to mitigate some of the impact of the taxes. Okay, because eventually what will happen is one, we have to do a lot of homework inside to be producing our goods at much more price competitive rates. You will need some amount of government subsidy, and then you would have to absorb some amount of the taxes. The customer will have to, or the vehicle or the tier 1 manufacturer that we are supplying to, they will have to absorb some taxes, and some of the taxes will have to be passed on to the end consumer. So we're trying to make sure that this mathematics
fits well,
fits well, and hopefully, things will look up.
But just a little more greedy, but to want to understand how are you encouraging suppliers to balance their portfolio? One time there is investment in EVs, hybrid and other powertrains. Diesel also is the mainstay, diesel components. How do you ensure that they stay balanced?
So I think first of all, we are encouraging people to invest in technology. The auto component industry's core or investing in technology is rather poor. So we need to invest in technology and technologies of artificial intelligence, technologies on improving your shop floors using a lot of digitization. Using a lot of technology on software-driven vehicles, using auto electronics. That's one bucket where you need to look at your product portfolio that matches the requirement of next-gen vehicles. That's one way to push for. And what your question?
No, the other part is to maintain investments in the diesel portfolio as well, while you invest in the new technologies.
Is that we believe that we are such a huge country. The vehicular penetration is very poor in the country as yet. While we may be suffering traffic jams, it's a different story. But the penetration of passenger vehicles is 30 per thousand. Passenger for two-wheelers is 180 per thousand. You have just one bus per thousand people. So the headroom for growth is so much, and I think we are not to be making sort of choices. It's the consumer who will make a choice of what technology will eventually survive, because it will really be what is the most optimal operating cost for a vehicle for the consumer, right? So that will eventually decide what they prefer to buy. But we cannot, or it would not be fair to force on the consumer a particular technology, and therefore I think industry will have to do a wee bit of a gamble in the kind of
the balancing act.
Yes, and they have to do the balancing act, and not just that. The other big factor, the boundary condition, is the CAFE norms. So you'll also have to balance your portfolio as to what does the government want you to deliver in terms of your average fuel efficiency, right? So all of this has to be a little walking on a fine rope, balancing a consumer expectation, a direction by the government, and your own profitability goals, right? You cannot ignore that. So, yeah, I mean, as they say, it is only the nimble-footed who will survive, and I guess the only way forward is that you offer more value-added solutions and products to your consumer. That's how the way forward. There's no one single answer to that.
Great. I mean, you put it so well. To stay, agile and competitive, you need to balance. Thank you so much, Vinnie.
Thank you.
Lovely interacting with you as always.
Enjoying the
lovely. Thank you so much again.